This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Teider. My guest today is Dr. Nicole Monteiro. Nicole is a licensed psychologist, university professor, published author, and owner of the Center for Healing and Development. Nicole has received extensive training in trauma and PTSD, in global mental health and organizational dynamics. She has worked around the world in countries such as Botswana, Ethiopia, Haiti, and Bahrain as an expert witness and consultant in cases involving child labor, immigration and asylum, disaster relief, and traffic psychology. Nicole, you have to tell us more about this. But I want to just mention your newest coaching program, which is called Boundaries to Bliss Bootcamp, in which you help women to supercharge their relationships and build confidence through healthy boundaries. Wow, Nicole, welcome.
Thank you so much.
I am so excited you are here. And I have so many things to ask you, and we have so many things to talk about.
Yes.
Where should we start? Let's start with your work. How did you get to travel around the world and help people?
Well, I will say that I have always had such an interest in the human mind, human behavior, and human cultures. And that's one of the legacies from my mom. And so when I went into the field of psychology, which I have loved since I was in high school, and I had amazing mentors and people to just to help me in this field and go through and get my doctorate, I knew that my vision was broader than just one place, one location. I was so interested in the human condition and the human mind and how people behave and relate to each other. So I literally found ways to study mental health and psychology in different parts of the world, starting with my dissertation research, which I completed. I did a study in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. And then I got jobs and consultancies and research work in different parts of the world.
Before we go deeper into that, tell me about the Boundaries to Bliss Bootcamp.
Yes. So one of my passions is really helping women to sort of embrace their power and their confidence and being healthy holistically in terms of their relationships and other parts of their life. And as I was doing my work and working closely with women, I found that there was this phenomenon of women really having difficulty expressing healthy boundaries, and we hear a lot of people talking about boundaries now, boundaries. And it sounds easier. People go around saying, just say no, right? But it's such a deeper issue. It's about how we're socialized and how we're the messages we get about what it means to prioritize our own needs and how that's selfish. And so I love developing through coaching programs and programs that bring women together. And this issue of boundaries was like the glue that just, so many women gravitated towards. And so it's a 4-week program, and we delve deep, very hands-on into this issue of not only what are healthy boundaries, how do we actually, how do we implement them in our lives?
Mm-hmm. Nicole, does this problem with boundaries come from women being programmed to serve the family basically for millennia, for thousands and thousands for years? It's so deeply ingrained in us and our partners, that...
That's a great question.
Somebody said in our panel that they were irritated. Was that you? That they were irritated with this idea of a motherhood being connected to sacrifice. I wonder if
that... Oh, yeah, that was someone else. Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember that.
And that all rings to me, no boundaries. It's like
Yes.
you have to sacrifice yourself for the sake of the family, and you have to be there for the family, and you have to serve them and make sure they're well. And this is where your boundaries melt away, basically.
Yes, it's such an incomplete version of ourselves. Those are parts of us, I believe, it can be part of our womanhood and our feminine energy. But the problem is it gets truncated so that that's all of who we're expected to be. And the other parts of us don't have room. Whereas, the way that we're socialized, like it's a singular focus. And we all know that, women are human beings first and foremost. So we're definitely much more than just that one thing. But you're right. It's the socialization. And there's nothing wrong with serving. There's nothing wrong with nurturing and caretaking. But a lot of times, and it's sometimes pressure that's passed down by women to other women to be self-sacrificing and to never focus. A lot of times it's the women that kind of reinforce this culture.
And we have to learn to delegate. I think that's one of our biggest lessons for the new generations, to learn to delegate without bad conscience,
Yes, exactly. To be able to, and some of that is letting go of that need to be in control of everything and to feel like your only validation comes from being this indispensable, self-sacrificing person. So yeah, there's a lot wrapped up in it.
Oh, there is a lot. But I wanted to ask you about your international experience. When I first read about your professional experience, there's a lot of trauma there and a lot of difficult topics. How do you deal with it and keep a smile on your face?
I think that's why I have diverse interests. So that's why I like to sort of work with women in different capacities, whether it's like helping them with boundaries or other areas. But I think even backing up before that, one of the things that working deeply with trauma will teach you is about the resilience of the human spirit and the human capacity for survival, for thriving, for living. So it's this weird, it wasn't, it's this interesting thing because people always ask me, oh, isn't that sad? Isn't that depressing? And I say it wasn't until I delved so deeply into trauma and even working with refugee trauma and generational trauma and disaster mental health that I saw the full resilience that is really our natural birthright. And a lot of times I'm just there facilitating something that's already naturally there. Maybe there's some roadblocks or it's stuck a little bit, but it's like, it really gives me so much hope, even more than before I got so deeply into trauma.
That's beautiful. How strong we beings are.
Yes, we really are.
Let's talk about Mama. Let's talk about Mama Felicia.
Okay.
Where is she from? Tell me a little bit about her.
So she was born and raised in Chicago, which is in Illinois, the Midwest. And she was raised by her mom, but mostly her grandmom, her mom and grandma. Her grandmother, who's my great grandmother, was born in Arkansas in the South, and she migrated to Chicago as a young woman. And her mother, my great grandmother's mother, was a Native American woman. And she died when my great grandmother was 4. And so my great grandmother was raised by her father's family, but she migrated to Chicago, and that's where my mom was born. And she spent so much time with my great grandmother. And then she came to the Philadelphia area around the age of 18. And that's where she's been ever since, making a name for herself, contributing to the Philadelphia community as an activist, as a director of a nonprofit or like a non-governmental organization that really developed programs to help women, kind of like we have similar passions, but just in a different way. But yeah, so she's been in Philadelphia, all of those years, and she's retired now, and she's an amazing grandmother to my two daughters. And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but that's that's part of it.
So Nicole, so that's what she's been doing most of her life, was activism and NGOs and supporting women.
Yes. She ended up, her route to sort of education was non-conventional. It wasn't like she just graduated high school and went to college. She went and finished as an adult, and just worked her way through the nonprofit world in Philadelphia, but eventually becoming the executive director of a very well-respected nonprofit that did a lot of community programs for children and helping to eradicate poverty and just these different things. So, and that's what she retired from. And I'm happy to say she is happily retired now, like really enjoying herself and her life.
Nice. So is she, I forgot, where do you live? Is she close to you?
Yes. After some time of sort of graduating high school and leaving the Philadelphia area at the age of 17 and being all over, going to college and moving to New York and DC, around the world, I came back to Philadelphia. My family and I, my husband and my two kids and I, about 6 years ago. So we are close by, like we are literally 10 to 15 minutes driving.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
We were
nice.
just together 2 days ago.
Oh, and she's involved. You said she's an amazing grandmother.
Yes. Picking up. We were at the park yesterday, me and my kids, and they saw a little girl that they had met when they were there with my mom one afternoon. And it turns out that the grandmother of that little girl was my mom's yoga teacher. So it's like, no matter where we go, my mom is connecting us with people. That's who she is.
Yeah, you told me that she was traveling the world with you.
Yes, she called herself the traveling granny nanny.
That's amazing. So you were able to take your children with you because she came with.
Yes, but a lot of the things I did were before I was married and had children. Like, for example, my dissertation research when I was in Ethiopia, she came. She's like, I want to see where you're going. She came to visit. She came with my uncle. When I was in Bahrain, in the Middle East, and even in the middle, there was the big uprising, the Arab Spring. She still came. Other people were supposed to visit. They didn't. She came to visit me.
Wow.
Yes. And when I went to Botswana with my oldest daughter, she came with me. That's when she started to say, I'm the traveling granny nanny. And she came and stayed for about 8 months and, really helped out.
How was that for your daughter? How old was she, being in Botswana, in a completely different country?
Yeah, she was really, really little. She started preschool there. So, and we were just talking about it. She remembers, but she was still really young. But she's like, I remember my teacher. And
they're so flexible when they're young.
Yes, they really are.
Let's talk about Felicia's lessons. What would you say is the most important thing you've learned from her?
Oh, wow. I would say deep compassion and humanity. And I mean that from the smallest to the largest expressions of those things. I mean, my mom, there were lessons like, to this day, I hate when I see people litter, because those were lessons that she was like, why would you walk and throw something in front of someone's house or on the ground that someone has to sweep up? Or when other people around me would use horrible slurs, ethnic slurs, like calling Asian people chinks, or using the phrase African booty scratcher, or, oh, a Russian, just whatever was in the news at the time. She would, when she heard other people, depending on who it was, but certainly for me, she would use those as teaching things to say, you hear what that person said? Never say that. We don't say that. We don't denigrate people. We don't, devalue people with that terminology. So she's always, and I was like, why was I so interested in different cultures? She told me that she was in the Human Relations Club when she was in high school. So she had that understanding of like embracing and learning about humanity. So that's one of the deep things. And she's a very compassionate person, just cannot stay mad or, upset at somebody, no matter what they do. So that's like one of the deepest things. Probably why I'm interested in the field that I'm in.
Absolutely. It sounds like it. What does a human relations club do?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this was a long time ago. So she was in high school in the late 60s, early 70s. So she said it was basically at a school where like the people who they would like just talk about different each other. Like, I guess they were all from different, parts of the, city or whatever, and just learn about different kind of people and emphasize the importance of communication, accepting differences, all the things that we say, but they called it that, I guess, at the time.
I love that everybody should have human relations club in their class.
Yeah. And she said it made a difference in how she viewed the world.
Yeah. Should we jump to the next lesson?
So I would say the second lesson is to just be okay with spending time alone with yourself, to like yourself enough that you enjoy time with yourself. And I remember she probably said it before, but I just remember distinctly when I was in high school. And I've literally, since that time, I've never had a problem. Like, I would go to a restaurant to eat. If I'm not going to wait for someone, if I want to try something new, I would just be okay. If I wanted to see a movie, I would go places by myself. And she really emphasized that, yes, connection and being with others is so important, but you also have to start with really liking yourself. And that's really helped me. I've done a lot of solo travel where like I could just go places by myself. And part of it is being an introvert, but part of it is that lesson that just stood out for me, that you can really see spending time with yourself as an enjoyable experience. And she even I heard her telling my daughters, because one of them said, "Oh, you didn't come over this weekend. Were you lonely?" And she said, she said something like, "No, I had a great time. Like, I'm a cool person to hang out with. I really like myself."
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've learned that lesson as well, and maybe way too well. I love my own company.
Yes.
Then we had a great lesson about speaking up.
Yes. My mother is from Chicago, the south side of Chicago, which is, it's not an easy place to grow up. And she said she had to learn. She didn't call it boundaries, but that's what I learned is like, you don't let people take advantage of you. And it doesn't, and there are small ways that you let them know. And I've always been a very soft-spoken girl, and a bit shy, quiet. And she would always, say like, sometimes, Nicole, she told me one time, don't waste your humility on people who don't deserve it. And what she meant by that is, she said, well, I always say, you're so modest, you're so humble, you're quiet. And a lot of times people take that to mean that you don't know anything or that they can just talk or walk all over you. And she said, you have to let them know. And, she would tell me this. And there were times when she would be like, look, you have a PhD, not to say you flaunt it around, but don't let someone come and like mansplain to you or say something that, ridiculous things and you don't speak up about it. Mm-hmm. She said, embrace, your it's powerful what you have dedicated yourself to and never let that go unnoticed. So those were like powerful things because oftentimes I would be content to be very quiet, especially when I was younger. I that was okay with me, but she would always say, that's fine, but you have to let people know. If not, if you don't speak up, they'll keep taking liberties. And she would just say it in different ways. So it was like so powerful to me because I learned that I could speak up even with my unique personality characteristics. I didn't have to do it like other people did it, but I would still need to do it in my own way.
So important. It's sad, isn't it sad that we live in civilization, or that it's human nature that if you that you do have to show teeth and you have to speak up to be respected. It's
yes.
Because I guess people like you and people like me, we would like to not have to do that. We would prefer not to have to do that.
Yes. And she taught me you don't have to, that now that's something that I know through my professional training and I help other people through, but you don't have to avoid conflict. Conflict there's nothing wrong with conflict. And, like you said, we would want to just say, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. And she would say, no, it is a big deal. And she's always my coach when she knows if people reach out and would say things like, oh, I just want to pick your brain. She would say, nope, tell them nope. They can schedule a consultation and pay. So it was things like that.
I love it. What a guide she is. She's really an amazing mom. And you seem to just appreciate everything and implement what she's saying, and it's beautiful.
I do. I appreciate her.
Let's jump in the next lesson. The one that every mom should be teaching her daughter.
The lesson that every mom should be teaching their daughter?
Yeah, I think you told me about how she told you or showed you that you deserve best.
Oh, yes.
I've done like 70 something interviews at this stage, and when I ask women about things they wish their mothers taught them, they often talk about self-confidence. They wish it matters to women so much that their moms installed this self-confidence into them.
Yes. My mom would even say, stand up and put your shoulders back and hold your back straight. Or walk with a book on your head so you can practice standing up tall. And she would tell me, even through my adulthood, you deserve the best. You deserve a break. You deserve to buy something nice for yourself. You deserve to travel somewhere nice. I never got the sense like from my mom, like, oh, no, I can't do this. She would say, you worked really hard. You did the things that we asked you to do. You deserve that. And so I think that's just such a powerful way because I meet so many people who struggle with that, and I don't feel like we all struggle with periods of insecurity and, stages of life, but I never felt like I wasn't worthy or I wasn't, at my core, something was wrong. I didn't feel that way. And I just was even thinking about when I had my first child and my mom was watching me do things like wash the baby, nurse the baby. And I didn't know what I was like. Oh, God, I'm nervous. And she was like, look at you being a good mom. Aww. You're holding your baby. Aww. And those little things, but it was a sense of like, you deserve to feel good about what you're doing as a mom. You just, so that sense of you deserve it was really strong from her.
I am so deeply touched with this, what you just said, because it reminds me so much of my mom and the way she would never in her life tell me, no, you can't afford that. Or, oh, don't be crazy. She was always the one to be like, no, you deserve it and you work so hard and you're earning your money and go and do it if somebody does it, She was really always gave me that support. And I was just thinking as you were speaking, because as we talked before we started recording, how your mom's lessons sound exactly like mom's lessons. And and this is one of the most beautiful things I've learned doing this podcast is that how connected we are. And I was thinking about how my mom came from a completely different country and different culture. And, she was raised and born in a communist Yugoslavia. And yet how deep inside, how we are same, that fills me with so much joy. And that's, again, if I've learned something from this interview, and if it really changed my life and the way I see the world, to see that how connected we are on this basic human level.
And that's a lesson we just need. We all need that.
Yes, we do. Right now, we do. And the world is becoming smaller and more crowded and more connected. And now more than ever, we have to understand that how interconnected we are, and that we're all just human after all,
Yes,
anyway, that was my little... Sorry.
Yes, I love that.
Did you have any other lessons you'd like to share?
I would just say to value health and well-being. And I would see my mom exercising, or, my whole family, from my grandma, when we were trying to become healthy, because my grandma developed breast cancer. But just to see my mom also, just caring about health. The thing that stood out about that is that she always felt like each person has something they can do to empower themselves. And she was never someone that I saw to see herself as a victim, oh, well, we can't do this, or they didn't make good food. They're giving. She would always say, well, what can you do, to improve yourself or your life? So health and wellness was really, they didn't call it that. She was just like, oh, I'm going to exercise, or we're going to eat this, or, we're going to take care of ourselves.
I wrote down not a victim. I think that's such a huge thing. It's so important. That
probably should have been the core lesson. I didn't really think of it like that, but I think that was the thing. I never saw my mom. I never got that sense of it doesn't mean you don't get disappointed or sad or whatever, but it's
you own it.
No, I'm not anyone. Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
I love that word. Yes, you own it.
Let's talk about something you wish she taught you. Was there anything she was not able to teach you, or something you had to learn by yourself?
I would say, I kind of told you a little bit of this earlier. I would say maybe more interdependence in relationships. And I would say my mom is a self-made woman. And I think my life, in many ways was much easier than hers earlier on. And so I think I, gravitated towards and really, sought out interdependence, ways to really to not always be independent, but to be more dependent or interdependent.
We talked about how similar we are in this way. That's one of the biggest lessons in my life.
You had to be dragged across the
I
country,
had
across the
across the
world
ocean.
to get married. Hmm.
And I'm still learning. It's crazy. We've been married almost 10 years and I'm still learning to trust and relax and open up to it. It's when you're raised that way and when you grew up that way, it's ingrained deep inside of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And look, we're the same. I've this past year we celebrated 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's one of the most important journeys in my life is being married. Mm-hmm.
It's a big journey on self-discovery and self-improvement. It's really like having a mirror in front of your face, as I'm learning now, because when you're alone, there's no mirror. You just you live with your little mistakes and little quirks, and that's okay. But then when you have a partner, there's a mirror, and it's like, oh, okay, I have to work on this, and I have to work on that.
So, I didn't know it looked like that.
Yeah, so it's really a big self-development journey, as I see it. Nicole, thank you so much. I'm very excited you shared Mama Felicia with us. Please say hi to her from me. I'm in love with her.
Okay. I will definitely tell her. Yes.
Let's recap for our listeners. I have, as Felicia's lessons, this deep compassion for humanity, how to love yourself, and how to be okay being alone. The importance of speaking up for yourself and not letting people take advantage of you and not avoiding conflict. I have written down, I deserve best. I don't know how else to put it, but the lesson that you deserve, that you're good, that you're worthy.
Yes.
Then I have not being a victim and valuing health and well-being. And something you wish she taught you, I have the other side of learning how to be independent, which is maybe learning a little bit more about interdependence in relationships. And then I wrote a bunch of quotes from Mama Felicia. I wrote, never be afraid to be alone. Don't waste your humility on people who don't deserve it. You deserve the best. We should all write ourselves a big sign somewhere in our room that says, you deserve the best. And that each person has something to empower themselves, that we all have a tool to empower ourselves.
Yes.
Is there anything I missed?
I think you captured it.
Yay.
I think you really, really captured it. And just my mom was always open, as I told you, we mentioned a little bit about Cabo Verde, which is from my dad. My grandfather was born there, my dad's dad. But my mom has always even embraced me getting so connected to that part of my heritage and my family. And, I just value the way that she always wanted growth and happiness for me.
She gave you the world.
Yes.
Nicole, thank you again.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyumama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider. That's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.